crab cakes that are stuffed inside of the clamshells. There's something on the screen. So basically, this dish was a dish that my mom had started. We used to make these crab cakes. They're very easy to make, but the problem is when you go to reheat them, when you're making the crab cakes, they tend to fall apart unless you're very careful with them. So I like to make sure that now I have these clams and I can stuff the crab cakes in them. I'm sorry I'm a little hesitant on how I'm talking, but I saw the camera go black, so I just want to make sure I'm still in the webinar.
During the webinar, I went black. Sorry about that.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not talking to anyone anymore. This happened to me again. It happened to me last time I was doing one. I ran out of battery. Okay, so anyway, like I was saying, I have a friend that works in a seafood distribution center. He's actually on a ship, and he constantly brings me clams or oysters. And over the summer, I did a lot of roasted oysters. And then also with the clams, I would make clam chowder. And it got to the point where I didn't know what to do with the clam so much anymore because I was so clammed out that I started to think of it as using it as a vessel, like I did when I made my grilled oysters. So it's really cool because when you make this crab cake, you can not only get extra ingredients for future dishes, but it just helps to hold everything in the vessel of the clamshell. And then this way now, if you're at a party, you can wow your guests. You don't have to worry about the crab cakes breaking in your pan. They can carry them when they cool around the party, when we do have parties again, whatever we're looking for. So I'm going to run through the ingredients real quick. We'll mix them up, stuff them, throw them in the oven. While they're cooking, hit a little Q&As. And then when I take them out, I'm all your guys for any questions you have for me. So we're at the Tasty Yolk storefront right now. This is the kitchen. I picked up this crab right here. This is jumbo lump crab meat. This was actually local in Stratford where I live from Birdies fish market. We have panko breadcrumb. That'll be a binder for our crab cakes. Now this I did ahead of time. This is small diced red bell pepper, red onion, and celery. And it's cooked with a little butter, salt, and pepper. This is the clams that I had. I also picked these up from Birdies. These are actually quahogs. They're a little bigger than clams, but they give you a nice sized crab cake. You could do them with cherry stones or little necks. They'll just be smaller. Maybe if you want to do a little pass around little amuse-bouches or little appetizers for the friends, they're good. Old Bay. It's an old seasoning, but it's great for seafood. It never leaves my pantry. Then here we have a house-made mayo. You can use store-bought. You don't have to make your own mayo. We have Dijon mustard. And then this is actually the reserve that I use at the storefront when I open the clams. I cook it with, all I do is I put white wine into a pot with the clams, just enough to cover them. And then I put it on top and I literally wait for the liquid to boil for about 5 to 10 minutes until they open. And then I take them right out of the liquid, strain the liquid, and now I can use that liquid to make clam chowder. So I think we mentioned everything except for the two other ingredients, the egg and the lemon, and those will come into play in a second. So I started with the crab meat. You want to go through it and just make sure there's no shells. It's crab, so there is shells. We're human beings. We don't get them all out. And though it won't hurt you to eat one, it's just not desirable to have a little shell in your food. But the reason I picked jumbo lump, and you can pick lump crab meat, it's cheaper. With this kind of crab cake, since I'm not forming it into a cake, it's going into a shell. I don't have to mix it so much and add so much panko to hold it together to where you can really get nice flaky pieces of the crab meat and get that real crab bite of that sweetness of the crab. So I'm going to put this in my bowl. My crab. Take my mixture. This was about half a red bell pepper, depending on the size. You don't need a lot. Half of a medium-sized red onion and 2 stalks of celery that I put with 1 tablespoon about of butter and cooked it for about 10 minutes on medium-low heat just to sweat it down. And I let it cool before I put it into my mixture. Here's the clams that I got that I shucked out of after they opened. I just rough chopped them up. It's nice because it adds a little texture to your crab cake, you know, just another layer of texture. Now we're gonna take one egg, crack it in there. It is a raw egg, so I mean, I don't recommend, because I can't, that you taste your mixture for seasoning with the egg. You could actually maybe taste it at the end before you put the egg in. I always just mix it because that's how I was brought up. Like I said, I was cooking with my parents, my mom and my grandmother forever. They tasted the raw meat. They tasted the raw eggs. You know, it's just, it's in my background. Let's hit some mayo. We're just gonna do maybe a tablespoon. This is just to add a little flavor, a little moistness to the cake, and another binder. And then we got a little Dijon mustard for a little bite. Not too much, maybe like another tablespoon. So I did 2 of the mayo, 1 of the mustard. And then I'm not good with recipes because I cook like I would play music, which I do as well. It's like I go with what I feel. And if I need to adjust, I change things up. But I start lightly in case I need to add more, because you can always add more, but you can't take it away. So I'm sprinkling some Old Bay in there. I don't know, I'd say maybe like half of a tablespoon. So here we're at right now here. You have the ingredients in the bowl. Can you hand me a spoon, please? Also, you can use Tabasco or any hot sauce of your choice. I use the hot sauce I make. This is our house hot sauce. It's called Tito's hot sauce. My last name's Felitto, so my friends call me Tito. We actually sell it at the storefront. Comes in this cute little jar. And we're gonna put a little splash in there for a little heat. We'll also come back to this later because I have another little trick that you can do to really elevate your crab cake when you're done. And then I take my lemon, and I'd say about half a lemon would be good for this. Get the juice. Make sure you're not getting any seeds in there. And now this is where I mix the wet ingredients lightly, because like I said, I like to keep that crab a little intact. So I'm not trying to break down the crab meat. I want it to be flaky strands, lumpy. You know, that's the whole point of getting jumbo lump, is that where lump meat is more broken down, jumbo lump holds the integrity of the crab. And I'm just lightly mixing it up, flopping around, getting all the wet ingredients incorporated before I add the panko breadcrumbs. Another reason I love putting these into the clamshells is that I don't need so much breadcrumb. I used to work at a lot of restaurants, and I'd always hear, how much breadcrumbs in your crab cake? Is it mainly like filler, or is there really a lot of crab in it? This, you can put as much crab as you want because you don't have to worry about it holding together. So you can see now everything's been mixed in. Now I start to add my panko, and this you really got to feel until you're trying to get rid of the wetness. So here I am right now. This isn't a lot. I'm going to put like maybe 4 of these tablespoons. It's enough to coat the entire mix on top, but when I mix it in, it'll be nice and held together. Still slightly wet, but not as much. And you know, as the breadcrumbs go in there, those breadcrumbs start to absorb the liquid. So when I go to stuff them, I'm not dealing with a mushy mess here. And it'll also let me form them into the shell. It's looking good here. I wish you could smell it. It smells great. That Old Bay really pops it out. The fresh lemon juice. All right. Now, like anything, you know, I taste my product to make sure we're at the right seasoning, because you don't know until you taste it. And sometimes I taste too much because it tastes so good that at the restaurant I run out of the amount of shells I could have because I eat too much. I mean, I wouldn't touch a thing. I think it's perfect. So
Chef Felitto, there's a question about what the name of the fish store is in Stratford.
I hope I'm pronouncing it right, but I believe it's called Birdies. It's right off of Ferry Boulevard. So it's over by like the Fitness Edge and but a little before it. But it's called the Birdies Fish Market. I mean, we all have Googles these days, so we can find it. I think it's UBERTIS, Birdies. And they have a lot of great stuff, and they have great lunch and dinner as well. We've gotten some of their fish sandwiches before, their lobster rolls, and it's great to have local fish markets near your home. You don't have to go to big supermarkets and stand in lines with people. It's awesome. So I hope that answered that question. These were the quahogs that I used. It's just a bigger size clam. And after I removed the meat, I rinsed them out under the sink and I dried them all. It's important you dry them because you don't want too much wet liquid in there. Now I have gloves on, so I'm going to switch. I mean, you can go with a spoon. It takes a little longer, but I like to use my hands to really mold them down. There we go. Start lining these up. Maybe Allie can tilt the camera and you can see what I'm doing here. You're just packing the shells. Yeah, that looks about right. Here, maybe I can bring it a little closer. Can you guys see that okay?
Yes, it looks great.
And you can see the lumps of crab meat, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's very important because a lot of times crab cakes get lost when you overmix them. You don't really have that meaty crab flavor, and I love it. It's this jumbo lump that they have in Birdies. It's such a sweet flavor. It's a very mild flavor, and it's got this tender bite to it with extreme sweetness. It's like one of my favorite things to have, and it's so easy to do. I mean, I've just been talking to you guys for maybe 10 minutes, and we're already stuffing clams and about to be ready for the oven. Now the oven I got set maybe at about 400 degrees. You could turn it down a little bit if you get nervous about cooking at high temperatures. I mean, being in a restaurant, we always need things to come out fast, so we tend to be used to cooking with a little higher heat. You can bring it back up, Ellie. But you know, obviously, you don't want it too hot because you want the entire crab to be heated through internally. And a good trick to test that, to make sure that it is heated through, is you can stick a toothpick in it and touch the tip of the toothpick that you stuck in to below the bottom of your lower lip, and that'll tell you if it's warm. That way you're not getting burned, but you can also sense the heat. I didn't need all the clams, 2 left over, but you know, obviously if you need a certain amount, they just won't be packed as deep. But these were some really big clams, so I mean, we're good to go here. Coming back, just had to change gloves. So now we're gonna get them ready for the oven. Now this is the thing I changed because you could just bake them like this. It's totally fine. When they come out, they'll be super moist and delicious. You could squeeze some lemon on them when you're done. But I was in my backyard with my family one day. We were doing oysters, and that's another recipe down the road. But after I made this butter that I mixed on them for the grill, I put this charred onion aioli that we use at the storefront on top with a little of the hot sauce. And it was a whole new world, basically. And I was like, oh, I got to do this with these clams. So now we're like kind of just adding another level to it, which isn't that difficult. If you want to do it with the onion aioli, you could do it. Basically, you can have a jar of mayo and you caramelize some onions and you let them cool. And then you blend the onions and mix it into the mayo. It's that simple. It really is. That's what we do here. But I like to And you could do this with a spoon. I mean, I'm going to use the tools I have because it's easier. Just tilt it up a little bit. But I hit it with a little of this onion aioli. You get that sweetness, and that little bit of char adds another level. And I'm just drizzling it over the clams. It doesn't have to be anything super fancy. As it cooks, it'll melt down and cover the rest of the crab cake and the clam. And then, when we're done with this, I like to put a little more of the hot sauce right on top, like a drop in the center, like almost like we call it the tiger eye, because it's got that intensity and that fire. So here we go.
Wow.
So a little drop in the center. It'll run down a little bit. That's okay. But when this bakes, since it is a mayo and has egg yolk in it, it gets a nice custardy top, and it's really nice.
Sandra Ann is asking how much crab.
So I used 1 can of crab, that's 1 pound, and I got 6 cohogs. I believe they at Birdies, they do it by the pound, and I came out a little bit over 3 pounds, but you gotta remember that's the shell. The clam doesn't affect it. The clam's just a little extra because you're using the vessel of the clam for your crab cake. The real star of the show here, though, is the crab. So this was just 1 pound, and I'd say 2 of these would be a dinner, most definitely. So this would feed 5 people for dinner. You know, maybe you do a little veg on the side, some broccolini, grilled broccolini, or some sauteed spinach, whatever you want to do this time of the year. And or one could be an appetizer, and you could have apps for 10 people. I mean, this was 1 can of crab. The total amount of money I spent on this dish was $37. And I mean, it was mainly because of the crab. The crab was $30 for the can, which is expensive. But I mean, I'm a chef, and food is extremely important to me, so I want to get the best I can get. But like I said, you can select. You could do this with claw meat. You could do it with just regular lump, and save yourself a good amount of money on that. But I splurge because I want the best. I want the sweetness of that crab. I want the texture, and I'm going to be eating these, so I want to eat what I want.
That's awesome.
I'm going to throw these in the oven now. I got the oven at 400. And I'm going to set a timer for about 10 minutes. And we'll check on them. But if we are lower at around 350, it's most likely going to take about 15 minutes. But even at the storefront, when we do sell these, it takes about 10 to 12 minutes to have them ready for customers. So I'm all everybody's now.
So Diana is asking what modification she can do to make a crab cake sandwich with your recipe.
Oh, well, the crab cake sandwich, I mean, you could add just a little bit more panko if you need it for stability. But I mean, as long as you have one of those non-stick pans, or you know how to get your pan hot enough where it's not going to stick, at this point, you're just making a patty instead of putting it in the shell. And now you cook it on either side until it's warmed through on low heat, definitely low. The lower the better, because it lets the internal temp of the crab cake go through without burning the outside. And then you just put it on your pot.
Lid on that, or just
no lid? You just have the pan going and you watch it and you flip it with your spatula. Most times something like that, since it is delicate, you want to, if you can, go to any kitchen store. You know, you could probably get it in your local supermarkets. I don't have one personally here, but they sell fish spatulas, which are a little metal spatula with spacing in between the spatula to let air pass through, so you can slip it under, and it's more flexible as well, so you can really get under your cake and it doesn't stick to the spatula.
That's a good idea, non-stick. Anne is asking if these can be freezed or defrosted for later outside the shell.
Wait, freeze them before you put it in the shell?
I'm thinking that she means, I don't know if Anne can clarify.
Well, let me just say this, Anne. You can make these ahead of time for sure. If you want to make these for a day or two ahead of time for a party, they go in the fridge. And when you take it out, your best bet is to let it, come up to temp a little bit. Otherwise, you're just going to be in the oven for a little bit longer. Or you could throw it in and you adjust from the fridge to the oven, maybe another 10 minutes. But you can also definitely make them and freeze them. And then you pull them out the night before in your refrigerator to defrost it. But this is definitely can do ahead of time. Doesn't have to be made the day of.
Great. Diana was asking in follow-up, she said, do I still put an egg in for the crab cake sandwich?
Well, the egg is really just going to hold the ingredients together for you. It also does add a little texture because, the egg yolk is rich in fat. So you're putting fat throughout the crab. And it's just not only binding it, but it also gives it that fluffiness to the crab cake. When you're eating it, it's not heavy and dense, it's light and airy. But I would always use the one egg. At least that's always how I've done it.
So Meredith is asking about where your storefront is in Bridgeport. Maybe you could talk about all the different locations and why you've chosen them.
Certainly. Well, I mean, the storefront is located at 2992 Fairfield Avenue. It's in Black Rock, the Black Rock section of Bridgeport. It's right on the state road that leads into the post road in Fairfield, across from Hub and Spoke. And we really got lucky with this place just because it was already outfitted for us. It was made for grab and go situation. We did have stools in here prior to COVID, but removing them actually helped us out a little bit. It helps us organize everything. And not only are we dealing with people's safety, but it lets us give better customer service to the person that's coming in at the time. But like I said, it's almost like this place was made for us. Everything about it was perfect. And I saw it when it was home on the range, and I wanted to be there, but we weren't ready at the time. And then it eventually switched and became available to us after it was built out, and we got in here. And then as for the trucks, really me and my partner, Mike, who at the time of opening our first truck, I was the chef at the Chelsea in downtown Fairfield, and he was the financial advisor right next door, which at the Fairfield County Bank. And basically we kept saying, that we needed to put something on Park Avenue in Bridgeport up by the college, because we thought the kids could really use a treat, i.e. our breakfast sandwiches. And Mike was the one who really pushed towards that, because he always knew I wanted to have my own food truck. And he knew I made, growing up with me, bacon, egg, and cheeses all the time. I even said it on national television when I was on Chop that, my brother even would call me out of school so that his friends during their free period could get a bacon, egg, and cheese from me. But he brought me into his office one day, because I used to go over there in the summer when it was really hot and talk and hang out. And that's when he was like, hey, we can get these bike trailers and outfit them into little kitchens and sell bacon, egg, and cheeses, so we can both keep our full-time jobs while we work. And that's what we did. And then eventually, as we started to build more trucks, the locations came based on us driving around town a lot and just basically seeing a site that was feasible to park, looked like it had good foot traffic, as well as, just looked like a location we would want to park and set up shop. And they've all been pretty great to us. So that's how we kept expanding. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to check. I hear sizzling. I smell things. Timers aren't always the only thing you need to use. So also being live, I don't want to pull out burnt crab cakes. Oh yeah, we're doing well here. Just going to rotate them now. Allie, what's the timer at?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. So yeah, so we're about halfway. And everyone's oven's different, but most ovens for me, I always know you got to rotate. So check your middle of your time and give them a good rotate while you're doing it.
So you mentioned your Food Network experience. Can you talk about how that came to be and what you did and the results of all of that?
Well, the Food Network thing was really funny because me and Allie would always talk about it. She'd be like, "Oh, do you think you want to be on Chopped?" And I'd always say, "Yeah, one day I'll be on Chopped." Until eventually, the GM at the Chelsea, who was Dave Curtis at the time, he's a good buddy of mine. That's why I threw out his name. But he came in. I'll never forget. I was cooking one day, and he was like, "Here, Chopp's on the line, and they're interested if you want to be on Chopped." I was like, "What?" So I talked to him. I said, "Let me talk to him." So they said, "Hey, we want to know if you want to be on Chopped." That's all they said to me. They didn't say how they heard of me, what was going on. They were probably calling restaurants. And I said, "Yeah, I'll be on Chopped." So they said, "Okay, send us a head picture or a headshot and a resume." And that night I did. And they called me back the next morning for a camera interview in the city 3 days later. And I went through my interview process, and eventually after a year of that, it led me on to the show. And I won the first time I was on it. Second time, when I went back.
What did you cook when you were on?
What did I cook when I was on it?
Yeah, the first time.
All right, so the first time was a breakfast battle. We had Martha Stewart as a judge, and then it was Mark Murphy and Amanda Freitag. And basically, it was 3 rounds. I had to do a appetizer, entree, and dessert breakfast themed. So at the time, I had 2 food trucks, so the pressure was really on, because I'm serving breakfast here, and I got a breakfast battle. But ultimately, the first round, I made kind of like a breakfast hash with some poached eggs. And then the second round, I made like a more Asian inspired from my time in Colorado, working as a sushi chef and a Southeast Asian chef. I had skirt steak and this thing called bagrir, which was a Moroccan pancake. And I made like I used fish sauce to season my eggs. And I made a soft scrambled egg that I wrapped in the grilled bagrir wrap with sliced skirt steak. And then they gave me cinnamon red hot candies that I melted down and made a sweet chili sauce out of. And then I whipped up some cream and made a kaffir lime crema. And that dish did really well for me in the second round. And then finally for the entree or for the dessert round, they gave me congee, which is a rice porridge that's just cold overcooked rice that tastes pretty bland unless I guess you doctor it up. I've never personally had congee in a restaurant, but then they also gave me a stack of French toast, breakfast sausage, and maple cheddar cheese. And I ended up making a congee cardamom ice cream. And I made a breakfast sausage, maple cheddar fritter with a berry sauce from the French toast. Our clams are ready.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, we're looking good here. All right, Allie, show them what we got here.
Wow.
Maybe you want to lift the camera up and kind of go over it so people can really see. There we go. Come forward a little bit. There we go. You guys see that? So this is the mayonnaise here. And because it has the egg, it gets that nice brown on top. I'm telling you, I don't even need to taste these to tell you how good they are right now. I already know. And, clearly you want to let them cool because they're piping hot right now. You can also see, I don't know if you can see, but there's bubbling underneath the shell, underneath on the corners. That bubbling is also a good indicator of it's cooked through. But like I said, you could take the toothpick, put it in the center, touch it to the bottom of your lip. If it's not warm and you feel it chill, then it needs to go in a little bit longer.
That's awesome.
There we go.
Just to change gears a little bit, someone asked early on about chowders and soups.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to be serving any chowders or soups for the winter?
Oh, we've been selling clam chowder all winter long. We've been selling only at the storefront. So our trucks, just so people who don't know what we're about, our food trucks are only used on the street in their locations for breakfast items. The nice part about the storefront is we're open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Except for Mondays and Sundays, we're not open for dinner. But Tuesday through Saturday, we're open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And my favorite part about working in this location is, given my background, I get to do all these dishes that I used to do at casual fine dining restaurants, like these clams. I mean, this is decadent stuff. This isn't just, you know, out of the box into the oven, you know, hocking food really fast and quick. This is, you know, my team I have with me, we have trained guys as well as myself, where we get to literally make the food we were making at the casual fine dining restaurants. And because we do what we do, and the volume we do, we're able to sell it at an affordable price. I believe we were selling 2 of these clams for $10, where, I mean, that's packed crab cake. That is meat. And, you know, obviously when I buy from my purveyors, I get a better deal than you would going into a local fish market. So I have the wiggle room. You know, I'm sure you're all thinking, how is he selling 2 of these for $10 with a $30 can of crab? But it lets us do all these great things that I used to love to do. But since we're pretty popular, and like I said, the masses that come through, it really allows me to do what I've always wanted in life, and that's let people taste the food I'm making. And it's been a great experience.
That's awesome. So Donna is asking, back to your chopped experience,
Sure.
if any of your chopped dishes made it to the truck menus. By the way, your hot Nashville chicken sandy looks amazing.
Oh, that is a great sandwich. We love our fried chicken sandwiches here. They're awesome. If you haven't had one, you should definitely try one. I'm in love with them. It is a massive sandwich, good price, and the ingredients are where it's at. It's good stuff. As for the chopped, it's funny you say that, because my first round, I actually thought I was going to get chopped. They gave me frozen potato hash browns. I think it was fresh squeezed orange juice, kale sprouts, and oh man, I can't remember exactly. Oh yeah, and then it was a whole bread stuffed with eggs and bacon. It was called breakfast in bread, and I actually thought I was gonna get chopped, because when I tasted the dish after I was done, it just tasted so salty to me. But somehow the judges, they said maybe it was the part I got. I tasted a piece that was salty, but the judges said the seasoning was perfect. Or the judges have eaten so much salty food through their days, where maybe their palates were blown out from salt and they didn't realize how salty it was. But either way, I won. But Martha Stewart did say that round, ooh, your plate is rather sloppy. So as an ode to her for the food truck, that month after it came out that I won, we made a dish called Martha's Sloppy Plate, where we did a potato and Brussels. We used Brussels because I wasn't able to get my hands on kale sprouts, and we did a Brussels hash with the chorizo, because I used chorizo in my dish. And then I made my salsa verde, which I also did because my hollandaise broke the first round. So I had to change gears, and I ended up making a salsa verde. And it was great. It was such a popular dish. It was a good time. Yeah, it was called Martha's Sloppy Plate. People loved it.
That's awesome. Donna also was asking if you worked with Chef Christian P.
Christian Petroni. I've never worked with Christian Petroni. I met him one time at a Mies. We were doing like guest chefs there for my friend Chef Jess.
Yeah.
When she first took over, so I did a guest appearance there, and then we went to Christian's, and I met him. But no, I've never had any chance to work with him.
Do you have favorite chefs that have inspired you along your way with techniques or chef cookbooks or?
Certainly. I mean, well, when I was growing into my culinary shoes, I'd say a big impact I had. Well, first I used to love Gordon Ramsay. I still love him. I think he's hilarious. I love everything he does. He's a master chef. But I was definitely looked up to him. Anthony Bourdain, big time. I've read all of his books. Love Eric Repair. And then in terms of the chef for me that's really had the biggest impact on my life, it's my chef out in Colorado, Sergio Verduzco, who owns the East by Southwest and now Mama Sylvia's Italian Kitchen. So he has a Southeast Pan Asian sushi bar and then a Italian restaurant as well. This guy was a genius. I still use dishes that he taught me to this day, skills. He was the real deal. He did ice carvings, vegetable carvings. He just knew a vast majority of answers, and he was an amazing businessman. And I forever look up to that guy, and I'm extremely grateful for everything he ever taught me because
he should come visit you.
He's amazing. What's that?
Come out here and see you live.
One day we'll meet up again. I went out to Colorado after we had moved back to propose to Allie, and we went to his restaurant and hung out with him for a little bit. But it's been a long time since I got to see him. But we stay in touch all the time. I talk to the guy all the time.
That's awesome. Barbara is asking, what kind of oil do you fry with? They have somebody who has a peanut allergy.
We use no peanuts in the storefront or anywhere on any of our locations. So we're a peanut-free area. We use, I believe it's soybean oil for the fryers. That's what we use. And then we use a 90-10, which is 90% vegetable oil, 10% olive oil for our sauteing and cooking on the flat tops.
Awesome. Nadine is asking, she loves the veg head sandwich. The star for me is the pickled cabbage. Can you share how to make it?
Oh yeah, I'm looking at the recipe right now. I'll do a quick turnaround. Let them see it real quick, but I'll tell you how to make it too. There we go. Here's a quick little glance. So there's the recipe. It's very simple. So when it says the bottles of vinegar, basically it's a two. I gotta see how many. What's it? 1 gallon. So if I'm using 2 gallons, would be 8 quarts. So it's an 8-to-2-to-1 ratio. 8 parts rice wine vinegar to 2 parts sugar to 1 part salt. So basically, however much you're going off of, you can convert it that way. But basically what we do is we shave the red cabbage. We take the vinegar, salt, and sugar mixture and boil it. And then we put a couple scoops of ice over the raw cold cabbage and pour the hot liquid over. So what we're doing that for is that when we pour the hot liquid over the cabbage, it's going to cook the cabbage a little bit. It's going to make it bright and red by hitting it with the hot water, similar to like if you were cooking green beans or anything you want to hold the color of. You start with hot water, and then the ice is there almost as a after effect to shock it, to hold the color and cool it down. Because if you were to just pour in the hot liquid into the cabbage and just leave it hot, it would fade the color of the cabbage. The ice lets it bring that temp down and shock it so that it holds and retains that rosy pink color. And that cabbage is good on everything. I'm with you. I love the veg head. I love that cabbage. That was like one of the best things I ever fell on. And that came about for a dish we had on the truck called the Red Swine, which is a Georgia red hot, the pickled red cabbage, the charred onion aioli, in a tomato wrap with 2 slices of pepper jack cheese and 2 eggs. Killer breakfast. Made it onto the storefront menu for a lunch item without the eggs, but you can add the eggs. With that pickled cabbage, I use it for everything. I use it to make my slaw for the Mother Clucker. That's our crispy chicken sandwich with the Korean barbecue sauce I make. And then we use it in the veg head, and we use it in the red swine. So we love those pickles. And that's the same pickle recipe we use pretty much as well for our store pickles. The only change is it's a little less sugar and salt, and we also add garlic cloves in it.
So there's also, tagging off of that question, a question from Jan about vegetarian dishes.
Sure.
What kind of vegetarian offerings do you have?
So at the food truck, if you're going for breakfast, we have one called the Toma, which is just tomato, egg, and cheese. We have one called the Slenderizer, which is spinach and mushroom with Swiss eggs in a spinach wrap. And then also we carry avocado as well on the trucks most of the time. So you can add avocado, and then we also have pico on all of our trucks as well. So it's a fresh tomato salsa. So literally at the trucks, the menu, as well as the restaurant, the menu is the guidelines. You know, it just gives you structure to see what we have available. But any ingredient we have on the truck, you can mix and match to your liking. Most of our orders are custom orders. So it's really up to you to put whatever you like as a vegetarian. As for the storefront, we have the veg head and the same options like the food truck. And then we have specials that run sometimes that are vegetarian. We have a lot more vegetable choices as well at the storefront. We have lettuce, tomato, the pickled cabbage that the trucks don't have, as well as, you know, we're constantly doing special dinners as well that we can utilize. And even actually this past week, we put on a veggie burger as a special, which consists of some quinoa, black bean, corn, a little chickpea and spinach, and a couple other things, some red bell pepper. And that's a gluten-free veg burger as well. And we also do offer gluten-free bread.
I think you're making a few people have watering mouths here.
I might be, but I'm like in my wheelhouse here. I love talking about food. So, I mean, I literally could do this all day. So you got me.
That is wonderful. I'm wondering who does all of your, the images that you post on social media. They really, truly are remarkable, and they are mouth-watering images.
Well, that would be the wifey, Allie, over here. I don't know if she's going to stick her head in or come around. I think she should.
Yeah, Allie, I think you should. The images are just amazing.
Yeah, she smashes on that Instagram, the Facebook. Here she is.
Yay, Allie.
You know,
hi.
Self-taught with all of that, and it's a major contribution to the business because you know, it's so funny how I can do something like this at the store, or do a sandwich like our special sandwich we're doing for the month on the trucks as well as the store, and she'll pop a picture up, and next thing I know, within 10 minutes we're getting orders for these sandwiches.
To be fair, I definitely signed up for this job so I can eat the food after I take the pictures. That's the benefit of the job for sure. For sure.
But her pictures are you know, what sells the food. Some of the hardest things in a restaurant to do are that aren't like a grab and go like this. In my past used to be, you'd spend all this time creating these specials, but unless you had a server that was really honed in on knowing not only how to sell, but the ingredients and the keynotes, you wouldn't sell as many as you wanted. But every special I come up with for our business gets a photo from this lady, and it's like, the photos are amazing and they sell themselves.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's a great thing to have.
Along that line of your specials, and obviously you have grown and grown and grown from bacon, egg, and cheese sandwiches to lunches and dinners. What inspires your specials? Where do you get your ideas from?
It's kind of a bunch of things. It could be something that I used to do with my mom that I put a spin on. It could be things as well as friends bringing me ingredients. I don't know. People love to bring me food. You know, it's very strange but awesome at the same time. They'll be like, "Oh, I had these clams going around," and then I'll be at home with them, and I'll make dishes at home for Allie and myself, or if it's summertime and we have the family over, and then that is when we that's like our test kitchen. Where we're really just cooking for ourselves to eat, but we'll eat something and we'll be talking about it and be like, you know, we should really do something like this at the store. And then also just a lot of reading. You know, I read the magazines all the time, like the Food and Wine, Bon Appetit, and I'll see something and I'll kind of be like, oh, I should do like a type of variation like that. And then it kind of spirals into our own thing. And then it's the people I work with. You know, I work with other chefs as well as super close friends and family. Like Mike, my business partner, I've known since I was 8 years old. So, you know, he'll say, oh, remember when you did that? Or, man, I really like this when I was over. And then I have chefs that I've worked with, some of them 6+ years that are in the company that also throw ideas, and they'll be like, oh, well, what if we did something like this with it? You know? And I just have so many resources at my hands that it's not just the brain always, but it helps me to be able to get out what I'm thinking for sure.
Well, it sounds like you listen to all the various avenues of input that come your way. And
Definitely.
certainly I can say from being a follower of yours on social media and trying things out that it's working to open the doors for all different kinds of opportunities, different
Sure.
kinds of food for people. Someone is asking how COVID has affected your business.
COVID for our business is, it's like a seesaw, you know. On one hand, it hasn't hurt us financially, so to speak, just because we aren't a restaurant that holds a numerous amounts of seats that we have to fill to make money. We don't have massive overhead either. You know, our place is small. We're grab and go. Our trucks are located outside. So literally, you know, everything that people strive to be safe during times of COVID, we have at our disposal. You know, we have a grab and go storefront. We've made it so that only one person or one party, you know, if there's 2 or 3 people together, they're only allowed in the store. So it hasn't affected the customers. The customers are here. The only thing, and I tell people that COVID has affected the business, is that it's taken a lot of toll on the employees, because, you know, we had to, though it was not the most difficult change structurally, we had to basically go back to the drawing board and figure out how to start our business over in terms of like safety. So now we're worrying about the safety of our staff, where we weren't necessarily worried that they could get sick. We weren't worried about the customer catching, you know, a very contagious disease. Of course, worried about someone getting sick from eating if food isn't properly handled, but nothing like this. And then along with that comes new rules, which people aren't always inept to just take in and make part of their own routine. So there was a lot of angry people that didn't like that we would only let one customer in. There was people that might have a bad day, and, you know, we're pretty busy and we're only allowing one person in. So there's lines forming outside, and people would be upset because someone got ahead of them while they were waiting. So there was a lot of mental stress on the staff. People would get angry, or, you know, you'd have people say, hey, I saw that person with their mask down. And, you know, we do the best we can to wear a mask for 12 hours a day. Sometimes things happen. You know, maybe someone walked in while someone was drinking water. There's, you know, everyone deals with the virus in a different level of comfortability. Some get angry, some are super protective about it, and where maybe they just decide not to come and eat out. And then, you know, some people are really strict on the rules, where they're almost policing people. And then there's people who don't care, and you try to tell them, hey, you need to put your mask up because this is the new protocol, and they get angry at you. So really, to sum it up, you know, for us, COVID was more of a mental strain than a economical burden.
Yeah. 2 more quick questions here, and then I'd like to hear what your plans are for the future. But so someone is asking about grits. What dishes can you make with grits? I've seen you've had shrimp with grits before.
Sure. Well, I mean, yes, we did. We brought it back a second time because it was very popular. I actually had friends texting me saying it was my wife's favorite dish. she's, has her sister coming in for her birthday. Could you put it back on the menu? And we're all about that stuff. If you guys really love something, we try to do our best to bring it back or put it back in the rotation. But yeah, we did a creamy grits with coconut crusted fried shrimp, and then we made a sherry broth with a sofrito, which is like a cooked tomato and celery, parsley, and a little bit of saffron. And that was a dish we sold. But with grits, honestly, grits are great because they're super easy to cook. As long as you put enough butter and cheese in them, they're delicious. And you can have that with eggs. You can have that, as a side, almost like you would like similar to polenta. So, I mean, you can really put grits with anything in my mind.
That's great. So there's also a question about eggs, and that Margaret heard that you can bake an egg in an oven at 150 degrees. How can you do that?
Wait, say that again? You can do what?
She says, I heard that you can bake an egg in an oven at 150 degrees. How can you do that?
I don't know. I've never done it, but I mean, I'll try it. probably, well, I would think if anything, you could get those little tartlet shells. Because I remember my mom doing something like that where she, had like maybe like it was like a cream cheese chive base, and then she cracked an egg into little tart shells and baked them in the oven. But I mean, it sounds doable. I mean, in that case, I don't know the exact answer to that. I would look it up online possibly, or just try it at my house.
Yeah, Margaret is saying Jacques Pepin does it.
Oh, well, he's the master. I mean, he's got 70 years of wisdom. I got 18. So, yeah.
All right. One more quick question here. Donna is asking, what do you eat when you are off duty and at home?
Oh, everything and anything. I mean, we probably, even though I'm at the storefront, I'm here 5 days a week now. As of recent, it used to be 6 days, but I would say we probably cook at home maybe 5 out of the 7 nights a week. So, I mean, it could be anything. It could be, we always keep a bunch of different grains in our fridge. So I also have a rice cooker. So I put anything in there, whether it's quinoa or any white, brown rice. We do lentils, everything. But it also depends on how busy we were that day. Like if we got crushed, chances are we're going to do something like quesadillas. I always like making mushroom quesadillas with funky different types of cheeses. We'll do, sausages with macaroni and cheese, simple things. And every once in a while we'll do a little more complex, but we really keep it simple. We don't go crazy with the ingredients. We more try to, when I say we, I mean me and my wife, but we try to pick out ingredients that are the better quality, and then kind of just add to that. I know I mentioned some fatty foods, but like, if say we want to cook a steak, I go to Custom Meats. That's where we get our meat from at the store. And yeah, it costs significantly more than at the store, but to me, the meat is supposed to be appreciated. I don't need a 16-ounce steak. I get an 8-ounce steak and I split it with my wife and we make sides, but we really get to taste that beauty of what is locally well-raised grown beef or pork chop or chickens. That's what we focus on.
Yeah. So does the Tasty Yolk have any big plans in the near future, in the far future?
Well, I mean, we've been open for 5 years now, since we started with our first food truck, and we have 4 in the storefront. So I don't have any details of when or where the future brings us, but I would definitely say, I mean, of course, expansion is inevitable. We want to do it. We love what we're doing. Our employees love what they're doing. We have happy people, and we just want to keep bringing it. And not for nothing. I mean, I can't tell you how many days a week we constantly get asked, you got to bring one to Stratford. You got to bring one to Milford. You got to bring one to Greenwich. Why don't you bring one here? So, I mean, the demand is there. And I was always told to strike when the iron's hot. So our expansion in terms of our timeline seems like it's definitely moving very rapidly. And I believe it will continue to move that direction.
That is just awesome. So I want to thank Chef Felitto. My goodness, what a wonderful story. I appreciate all of the time that you and your wife put into this evening on behalf of the Fairfield Public Library patrons. We really, really appreciate hearing people's stories, chef stories locally. Coming up next in our What's Cooking series is Catch a Healthy Habit. It's going to be on Monday, March 22nd. And Chef Lisa Storch will be walking us through making caramel apple chia seed pudding parfait. Let's try and do that fast. And it even has a spicy candied pecans on the top, but it can also be done nut-free. Kits are going to be available for purchase at their storefront. Information will be up on our website in the next few days about the details for that. Also, a follow-up, Margaret mentioned how Jacques Pepin cooks eggs. The book plates are in at Fairfield University Bookstore. I can tell you that they are absolutely lovely. They get inserted into his new book, and they are just lovely. So stop by and look at those, take a look. As always, please visit our website at fairfieldpubliclibrary.org for all event registrations. And we look forward to seeing you again very soon. Be well.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. It was great.
Well, thank you for everything you did to bring this about today.
Awesome. Thank you.
See you guys soon.
Bye, everybody.